Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Easy Gameplay Ability System. This video is to kind of show off first a demo about how it all comes together. And then we'll start going into basically how to set things up, how to integrate it into your project and things like this. So first, what is the Easy Gameplay Ability System? So Epic themselves provide a gameplay ability system, as you know, but it's all in C++. A lot of people use Unreal Engine purely with blueprints. So converting that entire system into blueprints obviously is quite a bit of work. So at least for my use case, I wanted a kind of simple gameplay ability system that allowed me to create abilities in the game, like skills or abilities that did a certain thing, had their own properties and the likes. And to be able to easily assign them to the character, as well as filling up like a hotbar, like an ability bar, and have appropriate input actions. So it would assign to the ability bar. I'd press 1, 2, 3, 4, or QWER, whatever I've assigned, and it would trigger that ability and have its own cooldown and things like this. So as you would expect in video games, since there are a few kind of solutions like this on the Unreal Marketplace existing already. A lot of them were for specific game types like survivors games and things like this. And I needed something a little bit more agnostic and a little bit more generic, allow me to implement this into my own projects, which could have different different game systems, different game genres. So that's why I designed this. It's a very simplified gameplay ability system that allows you to add new abilities to a hotbar, replace existing abilities on a hotbar, and each of those abilities having their own cooldowns and own properties and things like this. So before we really get started into the code and how it all comes together, let's show the demo level that comes with the package. So when you get the package, you got the EZGAS folder. And under there, we got the demo and we got the maps. And you just open up the demo map and it will take you to this. When you spawn in, you'll have just typical third-person character. And at the bottom left, you can see there are 4 ability slots, one of them already filled. And it has a key assigned to it, which is the number 1 key. So when I press the number 1 key, it fires off just a projectile. This package will also come with a really basic projectile system, so you can feel free to use that at your own pleasure as well. So yeah, when I press the button, as you can see, the green bar that goes around representing this cooldown. So if I'm pressing the button during that cooldown, it's not firing. It only fires when the cooldown is finished. We got these little kind of booths, I don't know what to call them. So here, for example, we can add a barrel ability. So these abilities are just purely demo purposes. I'm not distributing a damage system or anything like this. This system is to allow you to create your own abilities and integrate them, into this system easily. So here I created a simple barrel ability, which just spawns a barrel. So if I walk over here, as you can see, a function was triggered, which adds that ability to my ability bar. So now when I press number 2, it spawns a barrel. Simple enough. And that has its own cooldown number as well. So here we got a beam ability. So this beam ability is a hold ability type. And we'll get into the ability types in a bit. But generally, when the hold ability type is when I hold the button down, it keeps doing a thing until I let go, and then it goes on cooldown. So if I just grab this, now we got the third ability here, and it's just a particle effect, and I'm holding the key down while I'm running. I'm holding down the number 3, and you can see in the bottom left, the thing is grayed out while it's in use, and if I let go of the button, it goes on cooldown, and now it's available again. So we're supporting here holding ability types, and then the final one here is a charge ability type. So if I grab this, and what I mean by charge ability is like you hold it down to charge something up and then release, and then something happens, yeah? So you could integrate this into a skill that maybe has like a charging bar that has maybe the progress bar goes from 0 to 1, and then that amount of progress determines the amount of damage it can do, for example. In this, it's just using particle effects to show it off. So if I hold down the number 4, it's like got a charging particle effect. And then if I release, it fires it off. So holding it down and release. So the system supports kind of like these three main ability types, like something that spawns something in the game. So when you press the button, something immediately happens. It spawns like a barrel or a projectile that has its own code and things like this, and it immediately goes on cooldown. You've got the holding ability type, where you hold the key down. As it's being held, the ability is constantly active. And then obviously the ability needs to be created in a way to allow that continuous thing. So if you're using particle effects, you obviously want a loop on that particle effect. And then when you release, it will destroy. It should destroy the particle. And then the final one is the charging ability. As I say, you hold it down and it charges up, and then you release it, and then it fires off something. Yeah. For example, a bow. Yeah. So if your character has a bow, you can hold down to like charge the, to pull the bow strings back. And then when you release the key, it lets the arrow go. So we got two more booths here. We got update first ability and update second ability. So this is just kind of a demo that you can actually replace existing abilities on the hotbar with new ones. Yeah. So for example, if I go to the second one here, replaces the second ability on your bar. So in this case, it's the barrel, what I'm spawning a barrel with a chest spawning ability. So if I walk over there, the icon has changed. And now when I press the number, it spawns a chest. Yeah. Or update the first ability with a health pot ability. So if I walk over there, my first skill has changed, and if I press it, it's like a healing effect sort of thing. So that's the demo, what you get in the demo. And what we'll talk next is like kind of how it all comes together and how you can kind of call these functions within your game. So obviously you're not going to have these booth type things, these demo things in your game. But these are just examples that all it does is just fires off a function, on the character. And this is done through Blueprint interfaces as well. So you don't need to cast. There's no casting at all happening here. We have Blueprint interfaces and Blueprint components. So that is the demo in a nutshell. So let's take a look about how it all kind of comes together. Okay, so to get started with the Blueprint side of things, let's start with the abilities. So in the abilities folder within the EZGAS folder, we've got a BP ability manager parent. This is our prime ability manager, which we're going to be creating children from. And if we open up this, it does very simple things. First, it has an interface that's been created. This allows us to call this without using any casting. The whole system doesn't have any casting at all. It's all done through interfaces. But the interfaces have already been set up on the ability manager parent. So we'll run through them. You've got 3 custom event types because they don't have any return nodes. And then there is one more with a return node, which we'll go into. So on the event activate ability, so this happens when the key is pressed. So the moment they press a key, we are retrieving information from that key press, which is the input ID. So the input ID is which skill it is. So is it the first skill, the second skill, third, fourth, fifth, sixth? Because the system can support right out of the box up to 9 ability slots. It can be extended, but out of the box it supports 9, which I think is more than enough unless you're making an MMO. But this system isn't network replicated, so you'll need to do some work with that. But anyway, the activate ability simply gets the input ID and the owner ref. The owner ref is the player itself, because we may want to reference the owner later on, especially passing it through to the skills that we're going to be spawning. We got deactivate ability. So the deactivate ability, this happens in one of 2 different places. So if we're doing a spawn type ability where we're just spawning an object like a barrel, like a projectile, the deactivate ability event happens immediately after that. So this is when basically the thing goes on cooldown, the skill goes on cooldown. If we're doing a hold ability or a charge ability, the deactivate ability is called after the hold ability is done. Yeah. So there's a few different processes, but we'll go through how it all comes together in a second. I'll show you the actual hold skill and the charge skill. So we're doing the delay for the cooldown. So the cooldown is being set once this ability manager has been spawned. And after the cooldown has completed, we are calling ability ready. And the ability ready is this function here. So it simply does the ability ready callback. So here we're using the owner ref. The owner ref has an interface on it. And one of the functions on that interface is a ready callback. And so we're just sending information back to the player to say, hey, the skill is done, it's off cooldown, and it's ready to go again. And once that message has been sent, we're destroying this actor. This way we don't obviously keep spawning actors, more and more actors. We always want to destroy this actor after it's done its job. So this is the parent. If we go into one of the ability managers, so all of these are just the demo ones that you saw in the demo earlier. If we go into one of them, like the health bot, so this one is a type of spawn. So we're just spawning something in the game. We're not holding it down, or we're not charging it up. We're just pressing a button and it spawns the skill. So here on the activate ability, we're inheriting it from the parent. So all that code, and then we're spawning the heal skill. So this is a custom function. We go into this, and as you see in the comment, this is a demo example. And here we're just simply spawning an actor for the sake of demo purposes. So this actor, the general idea for the spawn actor is that you're going to create your skills without any sort of dependency of this ability system or anything like that. You just create your skills on their own. You don't have to do any integrations here with your skills. So for my heal skill, I created a new actor which did the particle effect, as you saw in the demo. And then you can have some custom code like, oh, it heals the player, or it adds some health, or does something, yeah? So all of that code is completely isolated in its own skill blueprint. That way you don't have to worry about you don't have to worry about integration between the skills you're creating and the managers themselves. The managers handle everything automatically here. So all we're doing here for our spawning is spawning this actor. And what I can do is open this, BP heal, and it's really simple. If I go to the viewport, because it's a one-time particle effect. So we're doing the healing effect particle. It's not on a loop. Maybe if I move it, there we go. So you can see it's just a one-time particle effect. So on the code itself, it's just event begin play. We wait for 2 seconds and destroy itself. Yeah, because again, this is a demo. I'm not introducing any new damage or healing system or anything like that. But then here, for example, you would usually have like heal player. Yeah. So you can add a variable like player reference and have that exposed on spawn. And on the ability manager, you would plug in the owner ref directly into the spawning. So that way it has a reference to the owner, and then you can just do whatever you want. So you don't have to worry about any sort of integration with your skills and the managers, because the managers handle everything. So this is the spawning system. After it's spawned the ability, our blueprint component is immediately calling the deactivation of the ability. So as you remember from the parent, all that does is just trigger the cooldown. So it waits for the cooldown and then sends the message that the ability is now ready. So on the deactivate ability, we don't need to do anything special here for the spawn ability type because it's called automatically. So we're just inheriting it from the parent. And then the same here for the ability ready to say, hey, I'm off cooldown. Please let everyone who needs to know that I'm off cooldown so it can be reset and allowed to be used again. So there are no special statuses. All we're doing is inheriting it from the parent. Yeah. There's one more here, which is return cooldown. This is also on the interface, needs to be filled in. And this is just really simple. Plug the cooldown into the return node. Yeah. This is the way we're always returning the cooldown to the interface so we can reference it later on. So this is just one example of a spawn ability. If I open up, go back to my BP ability BPs, and let's open up the hold ability, so the fire beam hold. So we've got a little bit more going on here. So if you think about it, the process of holding an ability, yeah. So the input action has the thing set to down on the trigger modifier. So when we're holding it down, it activates, inherits from the parent and activates spawn beam. And all this does is spawns the fire beam actor, which has its own code, absolutely nothing related to this whole interface setup. It calls a custom function on this fire beam, which all it does is just sets the particle effect and then sets a local variable. It sets a variable to reference what we've just spawned, and then we're attaching that actor to our owner on spine 03. Yeah, so that way it just follows the player around when you're moving. Really simple. Obviously, don't directly copy that. I mean, you can copy it if you want, but it's not great. If you want to attach things, create your own sockets, yeah, for that sort of thing. But this is just attaching it to the spine of the actor. So that way it just follows the actor around and doesn't just spawn in the world somewhere random. So that's what we're doing here. We're just spawning that beam. So at this point, the player has thing held down. Yeah. And then when we release the key, event deactivate ability is called. So as I mentioned with the spawn ability type, this is called automatically, but not for the hold in charge. So the hold in charge happens when you release the key, and then this is called. So we're first checking if that actor is valid. If it is valid, we're going to destroy it, because this actor doesn't have any self-destroying code. We only want to destroy it when the player lets go. Now, you can change this if you want. You can have it on the skill to say it destroys itself after X amount of seconds, because it can only be used for X amount of seconds or something like this. And once it's destroyed, we are calling the parent to deactivate the ability and send the appropriate message to call this, which is the ability ready to say, hey, I'm off cooldown. Please let everyone know I'm off cooldown. So that's a simple kind of setup for a holding ability type. And I can show you, if I open up the code for this BP Firebeam, really simple demo stuff. So we have two events, Charge Beam, Firebeam, because we're using the same actor for the charge ability. And then we've also got this destroy self after some time. So I have a function already to destroy itself after some time, but for demo purposes, I wanted it to destroy when I released it. But this is used for the charge ability. And then we've got the viewport here, as you can see here. It's just a repeating sort of particle effect. And then for the final thing, the charge ability itself is actually pretty much exactly the same. If I go to this, again, we are activating the ability, spawning the charging skill. In this, all we're doing that's different from the hold ability is calling a different function within the skill itself to say, hey, do the charge beam particle effect, please. And then when we release the key, we want to spawn the fire skill. So we're going to get the existing fire skill that we're doing while we're holding it. So then we release, we want to call the function to turn that into a fire beam type and then destroy itself after 0.2 seconds. So it looks like it's kind of shooting a beam out for a split second. So everything's kind of handled here like that. So you can just do whatever you want as long as you're inheriting from the parent. You can set this up however you want. All you just got to remember is this is called when your button is pressed. This is called when the button is released. Yeah, for charge and hold. If it's for a spawn ability, this is called immediately after you press the button. And then this is called automatically from the deactivate. So after the cooldown is done, this is called automatically. So that's all you need to keep in mind. And then you just need to determine, hey, does something need to happen before the cooldown happens? Then I need to place it here. Does something need to happen after the cooldown happens? Then I need to place it on the other side of the parent inheritance. It's really simple. I'll document this as well as I can. With some more examples and show you step by step how we can set this up. But the cool thing about this setup is that our skills that we're spawning, like the projectiles, the barrels, and the whatever you want to do, they are completely isolated away from this system. Yeah. All the cooldown information here. So if we just search cooldown, well, I need to first click on this. So if we search cooldown, this ability, the Fire Beam Charge ability, has a cooldown of 1 second. So we can just up this, to 1.5, and then that's it. It now has 1.5 seconds cooldown. So if you want to adjust any of the cooldowns for the abilities that you're creating, you need to do so on the ability manager for that skill. So that's the abilities. There's a lot to get through there, so apologies. It took a while, but I needed to explain these things. What we'll do at the end is look at creating a new ability and see it happen in the game, because it is much simpler than it sounds. I'm just explaining to you all these functions. So if we move on, I want to show you the data side. So here is where you're going to be filling in the data of your abilities. There's only 2 things that you need to edit here: is the ability names and the ability data table. The ability type you shouldn't touch, and the same with the structure of the ability, you shouldn't touch it. So the ability name, we got all of our ability names here. Yeah, so barrel, health pot, dark projectile, chest, fire beam, and fire beam charge. So if we wanted to add a new ability, we'd just simply add a new name to the list. When you receive this, you'll have all this built in as well, so you can just delete all of these or replace them, add some. You can keep them if you really want to. It's totally up to you. So if we go back, and then we got our data table. So briefly explaining, each row, you need to fill in the following information. You don't need to worry about row name. That's not called in any way whatsoever, so you can just leave that default. If you want to update it, you can. It's up to you. But that's not called in any way. You need to fill in the ability icon. So the icons that you're seeing, just FYI, they're AI generated just for demo purposes. So you'd need to replace them with actual ability icons that you designed yourself, or if you're using AI, whatever floats your boat. The ability name, so this is from that drop down of the enumerator that you just saw. The ability type, so here we're doing either a spawn, charge, or hold ability. This is very important. So if you've got an ability that you want active when the player holds the button down, then you want to change that to a hold ability. If you want to do it like, I want to charge this and then release, then it's a charge, or I just want to fire and forget, then it's a spawn. And then the ability class ref is you need to point it to the child blueprint of that parent manager. So, we got the ability manager barrel, chest, dark projectile, whatever. So all of these are children of that parent. You need to point it to the one that you've created for your ability. And that's it. Yeah, it's for the data table. So it's very easy, quick to add new abilities to your list. In the components folder, we've got our ability blueprint, actor blueprint component. And then we've got 2 interfaces. One is an ability handler, which handles the communication between abilities. And one is character ability handler, which goes onto your character. So let's move on to the UI, the user interface. The most important area you need to really look at is like the ability widgets folder. So this contains, don't worry about that backup, that will be gone. This contains all the necessary information for the widgets to kind of handle themselves. Yeah. So we have an ability bar, which is like the bar that you saw. And then we have like 2 sub widgets, which is the actual ability slot and the ability slot empty. So what it will do is check how many slots the actor has, the player actor. If it has 4 slots or 6 slots, and it will create that many empty slots. And then it will fill those empty slots with the actual abilities that has been assigned to the player. And then here we've got a main folder. This is main HUD. Now imagine this as your main HUD. So I understand that, when you're working on your project, you'll have your own HUD. You'll have a health bar. There's maybe some maps or maybe some quest log or whatever. You've got your own UI in your game. This is just a placeholder. So you don't need to copy this W_main HUD. All you need to make sure is that in your HUD, you have this W_ability bar widget. Yeah. So you open up your main HUD, and then you just simply drag and drop the ability bar, do control space, go into the UI, ability widgets, and this W ability bar, you just drag it into your main HUD. And what I've done is I've anchored it to the bottom left of the screen, because the abilities, as you're adding abilities, it extends out to the right automatically, keeping the padding. So this would be good if you want to dynamically increase the maximum abilities that a player can have, which you can do. As well as maybe you don't want to have the empty slots being shown, which you can easily get rid of. But I put it at the bottom left. You can have it in the center at the bottom. You can have it in the middle of the screen if you want, or at the top. You can put it wherever you want. It's your HUD. You design it however you want. All you just got to do is make sure that this is in there and it has is variable set to true. Don't change the name of it. Just leave it as it is. Just check the box is variable. And then that's it. That's your HUD set up. You don't need to do anything else with the HUD. So when you go to your player character, you can copy the blueprints over without any problems. So that's it from the UI perspective. Let's move on to the actual character perspective. So let's open up in our demo folder. We have supporting files, and within there a blueprints folder. Here we have the third person character. So we're going to open him up. The default third person character comes with some functions already pre-configured, so you don't have to worry about them. When you're working with your character, there's some things that you need to do. The first thing is go into the class settings and make sure you've implemented the interface BPI character ability handler. This needs to be implemented, and you need to add the BPC_abilities actor component to your player. Yeah. Once you've done those things, if you just click on the BPC_abilities, on the right side, you're going to have like variables and stuff. Here is where you're actually going to set what abilities your character has. So as you see out of the box, I've got abilities. So ability slot 1, I've got it set to dark projectile. So now if I add a second one in the array, you've got to remember as well, one of the limitations here is actually this needs to be in order. Otherwise it gets a bit finicky, a bit buggy and stuff. So we're starting with 1. This next one's going to be 2. And we can set this one to be fire beam charge, for example. So now if I compile, save, go back to the game, as you can see, we've got the fire beam charge skill set up automatically. And I can show you that it's actually working. We go back to the character, and I'm just going to delete that. So here is where your abilities are configured. So here you can actually dynamically add new abilities, but this is handled through an implemented function, which I'll show you. You don't need to worry about anything else here. Yeah, if you want to, don't touch the data table, don't touch the map here, and don't touch this map either. This is important to keep as is, because this is handling the functionality. All you need to do is update the abilities. So you just simply add new abilities. Oh yeah, so you need to fill it in whenever you want to add more. So this one's going to be 2, this one's going to be 3, this one's going to be 4. And again, out of the box, this supports up to 9 maximum abilities. Let me just delete these. So that's the actor component. Let's talk about the interface itself. So we'll go to the interfaces on the bottom left. And as you can see, there's a fair few that we need to set up. So let's look at the return abilities first. So we've got get max abilities. This is the first thing that you want to do. All you need to do is you can copy this function to your character. Well, I mean, it will be there when you implement the interface. Just set the maximum number of abilities your character has. Just put the number in. This can also be updated. So you can promote this to a variable, for example. And then you can update that variable. Yeah, you just got to make sure that the get max abilities is then called again. We've got get active abilities. So all of these, you've got to copy from this example character that I'm providing to you, and just copy and paste it into your character once you've implemented the interface. Yeah, so we've got get active abilities here. We're just getting the component, we're getting the abilities, getting the keys, and then returning the input IDs. This is used for other stuff, which I won't go too much into. And then we've got some other functions. So we got add new ability here. Here is where we're adding a new ability. Again, you just want to copy this entire event to your character, on this function. So everywhere where it says copy this event to your character, just copy and paste it. Yeah. I don't think there's no variables being created here, except there's one here, which is main HUD. Yeah. So when it comes to copying the main HUD, however way you are handling your HUD interface is up to you. What I've done here is just done it on the begin play to create a HUD widget, promote that to a variable. This is important to call like main HUD. If you've called your HUD something else, the variable name, you can keep it, but you may then find some compilation errors. Like for example, here we're calling main HUD. So you just need to change wherever it says main HUD, wherever it's calling the main HUD variable, you need to call your main HUD variable, whatever you call it. It would probably be easier to rename it to main HUD. But if you've already got something set up and you just want to implement this, and you don't want to change the name of your variable, then just make sure wherever the main HUD is being referenced, you can just right click and then find references by name. So you just need to replace wherever this is being called. Yeah. Bit of work, but that's why I recommend just calling it main HUD. So we're probably hit a variable, and then we're just getting the ability bar, and then we're just pushing the owner ref, which is the self, into the ability bar. So the ability bar knows who's the owner, and adding it to the viewport, and then running this function called update assigned abilities. And I'm going to click on this. So again, you want to copy this function to your character. All of these functions you want to copy. So I won't keep repeating that. So you want to copy this. This needs to go. Same with this. It's not being called anymore. So yeah, this basically updates the user interface to say, hey, there's new skills being added. Update the UI to represent your new skills and allow us to start using those inputs. That's it, basically. So we're referencing the data table. We're getting if the ability name matches the new abilities being added. And then we're calling a function add ability. And then the function add ability is on the widget itself. So then the widget handles the adding of that ability. There's a lot of rambling going on here, so I apologize. It's just a lot to get through. Again, the documentation will show you everything. So finally, what we're going to do is go through a process of creating a new skill. What I might do is just replicate an existing skill that I have to save me importing new models or new whatever. So adding a new skill, how do we do it? Pretty simple. First things first, I'm going to create a new ability manager for it. So I'm going to right click on our ability manager parent, create a child blueprint, and then we're going to call this BP underscore ability manager underscore, we're going to call it new barrel skill. Yeah, because we're just going to spawn a new barrel. All right, we're going to open this, go to the event graph, delete this, and then we got to do our interfaces. So we double click on return cooldown, right click, get cooldown, return it. And while we're here, we can set this cooldown to be, I don't know, 2.5 seconds. So that's going to be the cooldown for this bill. Then I'm going to implement these three interfaces by double clicking on them. So ability ready, deactivate, and activate. So ability activate. So we know this is going to be a spawn skill. So what we want to do is right click this, go to add call to parent function, bring it over, hook everything up, hook this, hook this, hook this. And for now, we don't have the function. Actually, we'll just create a temporary function. We're going to call this new barrel skill underscore spawn. You can call it whatever you want. Go back to the event graph, and we can just drag that in and call it. Deactivate, we're going to add a call to the parent function and just deactivate it. We don't need to do anything with this because the deactivate gets called automatically. And the same with the ability ready, add call to parent function. And then we add it. That's it. compile, save. Next up, we are going to create the skill itself. So I'm going to go into the demo folder, ability actors, and I'm going to create a new blueprint class actor BP_new barrel skill. So open this up. So this is going to be our skill itself. Yeah. We're going to add a static mesh, and the static mesh is going to be the barrel. Yeah, there it goes. It's a big barrel. And then this is generally what I did for the other barrel skill. Just here's the barrel, and I set some physics on it. So what I might do the same is the physics, simulate physics, make sure that the collision is set up correctly. Collision enabled is a physics actor. We want to custom this, and we just want to we want to ignore the pawn, so that way we can just walk through it, and so it doesn't like push us out of the way or anything like that when we're spawning it. Obviously, you can just do it however you want, but it's just an example. In the event graph, normally for spawning something like this doesn't need anything, but just for demo purposes, we can say, hey, when this is spawned, we're going to print a string. I'm going to call it, this is my new barrel skill. Yay. And then duration, we'll just put that up to 10 seconds so you don't miss it. Text color, let's make it green. Nice. Lime green. Okay, compile, save. So now that we've created our ability, obviously your ability will have a lot more code than this. It would handle damage and everything like this. But for now, this is what we're going to do. And if we go back to the ability manager that we created, so we've got, I think it was just in here. There it is, new barrel skill. And we'll open up the function, the empty function that we created earlier. We're going to spawn actor from class. And this is new barrel skill here. Spawn transform, we're going to get the owner reference. Going to get actor transform. We're going to, in order to avoid the thing being spawned in the middle of the floor, we're just going to split this. The rotation and the scale can remain. We're going to split the location. Let's do X and Y, where the actor is. And then the Z, we're going to add 50, just to make sure it spawns above the floor, not in the floor. Spawn actor from class. Yeah, and that's it. So that's the skill almost ready. But in order for us to use it in the game, we now need to go to our data, go to the ability names. We're going to add a new ability. This is the new barrel skill. Save. And go to our abilities, add a new row. We need an icon. I'm just going to use, I don't know, the built-in green face icon thing. Set it to the new barrel skill. This is of type spawn. And then the ability class ref is going to be the new barrel skill ability manager that we just created. Save that. Now, if we go to the player, you see abilities, and we can add the second ability being the brand new new barrel skill. There it is. Compile, save. Now, if we run, as you can see, we've got the new skill with that weird looking green face thing. Now, if we press it, whoa, it spawns a huge barrel that doesn't ignore the camera. Doesn't ignore the camera collision. But yeah, there we go. And you can see at the top left, this is my new barrel skill. Spawn huge barrels and spawn it on top. There we go. The physics are working nice and funky. Spawn it again. Right, on top. Go. Physics are always fun in this. So yeah, that's an example of adding a new ability. As you can see, the actual ability itself is completely separated from the actual system. So you're free to do whatever you want with your abilities without worrying about breaking the ability skill system. So that's been a showcase of how this all comes together. I know there was a lot of talking, and I hope that you use this video as reference when you're actively using this plugin. The documentation will be linked in the description once I've finished it. There's a lot to do, so it will be a while. And it will be available on the Unreal Marketplace as soon as Epic accepts all of it. Thank you very much for watching. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. Have a great day.